What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ethan. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to another one. Back at it. We're on the 1-3 game. We're probably gonna play at the 1-3 list today. Nothing new. Hope you guys are doing well. We don't really have a lot to say right now, so with that said, six-handed should be a good time. Let's see what kind of action we get into. These hats are fire. If you want one of these bad boys, really happy with how these turned out. So shout out to Jamie for making this happen. Feel free to go check these out in the link down below. It's silver screen design, Rampage Poker Store. Go check that out. Besides that, not a lot to say. Let's get into the action. We are on to 2-5 here, and let's get into it. Buying for 1,000, first hand in, playing 5-handed on the button. Jack 10 off is a good candidate to open things up, so we size to $20. The small blind, who is a very solid 5-10 plus player, he decides to 3-bet us to $80 in standard 4X. You can certainly have a wide 3-betting range, and Jack 10 off is an easy defend on the button here, so let's play it. Playing $1,000 effective to start, let's see a flop. The flop comes queen, 9, deuce, 2 spades, and this is certainly not a flop we're going to be folding on. He decides to c-bet to $55, 1/3 the pot, with pretty much most of his range with his value and bluffs in his hand. And with that said, I decided to flat here, open-ended. The turn is perfect, the 8 of diamonds. Thank you, dealer. Once again, he leads out for $225, and I don't think I need to raise here, given that he did bet a large amount. Don't need to scare away any of his bluffs since he can have some, and it seemed unlikely that he would have a spade draw given the large sizing. With that said, we make the call, and let's go to a river. The river comes the 3 of spades. This isn't ideal, but like I said, I'm not too afraid of the spades. Although not an ideal card, he does announce a big bet, which is all in. He covers me, but just by a little bit, as I have $660-ish in my stack. And not much of a decision to make here. We decided to just snap it off. If he has a flush, he has a flush, but he does not have it. He has ace-10 offsuit for ace-high, and we scoop a really big one to start this session. Nice to double up, and let's keep the momentum going. Second hand in, ace-jack of diamonds under the gun. There's a button straddle here, and there's a small blind who opens it up to $27. This is a super weird sizing, and he's usually very passive pre-flop. Anyways, I decided to 3-bet this to $80 to see what happens. It folds around to him, and he quickly makes the call. Let's go to a flop, which comes 10-8 deuce rainbow. He checks to us, and this is a board texture where we're just going to have to c-bet a little bit and just see what happens. So we decided to c-bet $55. He just rips it all in for $600, and we are just out. Never really calling a $600 jam with ace-jack high. So he announces that he had pocket queens when I do fold, so should have known that he had a premium hand raising from the small blind, and unfortunate. This next hand, we pick up the hand, our hand, pocket fours in the cutoff. On the gun player, he's passive, he decides to limp. This is the same player from last hand. With his limp, now I'm pretty comfortable with raising, so I size to $25 with a premium holding. Folds around to the on the gun player, and he decides to call. Flop comes Jack, Jack 3, Rainbow. This is a pretty darn good flop on a paired board. So with that said, I decided to c-bet $20. Pretty small, just to widen his calling range. I think he can just be calling and floating pretty wide. He does float, and we're off to a turn. The turn comes the ace of diamonds, brings in a backdoor diamond draw, and also not ideal, because he would be floating with a lot of ace X's in his range. So when he checks, we decide to check it back. The river is a queen. Once again, not one of those really good cards that we like, but how many queen X's, ace X's does he have now? But he does lead out for $65. Yeah, facing a $65 bet, folding, a little boring. And also, pocket fours, like, you've seen this hand. It doesn't really lose that often. So I stick in $65, and he's a little reluctant to show, but ends up showing us 6-3 of diamonds. Scoop, man. Pocket fours, like I said, they don't lose. From pocket fours, we downgrade to only 1-4 in our hand, 4-5 of diamonds and +1. This is a good hand to open, so we decided to open it up to $20. And also, other players felt like they had good hands as well, because we get 4 calls. Playing 6-handed, we're going 5 ways to a flop. The flop comes 5, 5, 6, 2 hearts, and a club. So when action checks to me, obviously flopping trips. This board should be a lot better for other people's ranges, but let's put in a c-bet. We'd go pretty small to $50 when it checks to me. Only the player to my left makes the call when action folds all the way back around, so we're going heads up to a turn. The turn comes the 8 of clubs now, so this board is just insanely wet. With this super wet board, lots of draws out there, lots of combo draws available as well. We decided to size up to $225 with the intention to get stacks in. And we do that. We get that because he decides to rip it all in for about $400 more. And I don't think I'm ever going to be folding in this spot. The goal was to get stacks in on this very wet turn. Equities might be running pretty close, but we're never going to be folding. I toss in the call, and we're off to a river. The river comes the 10 of clubs. He says that he missed with ace 7 of hearts here, so we take this one down with trips, and yeah, any hand with a 4, treating us well. This next hand here, ace-king offsuit on the big blind, action folds back to the small blind, who decides to open things up to $20. In position, ace-king offsuit. Easy 3-bet spot for us, so we size 3 exit to $60. Now onto him, and he puts in the 4-bets. He puts in the 4-bet to $220, and he's sitting about 800-ish behind. Sitting blind versus blind, this just might be a pretty good candidate for a 5-bet potentially. Some background information, he showed a very light 4-bet before, a few hands before. He said he 4-betted with ace-5 suited from out of position, so I don't really necessarily think that he's doing it 2 times in a row, but obviously he is capable of doing so. So a little suspect, and maybe he's a little more inclined to do so since we are blind versus blind. Ace-king is going to be really weird. I'm not entirely sure what the right line is. I think 5-bet shoving for 1K is just going to be really massive and a little disastrous if we are dominated. So I tanked for a while and decided to just flat here in position and see a flop. The flop comes queen 9-8 rainbow. Not the board we're looking for, as we totally whiff, and he c-bets $200. This is the issue with playing ace-king in position and not just ripping it in, because I don't really know what to do on most boards and most flops. So with that said, I feel like I can be good here, but it feels like floating with ace-king high in a 4-bet pot is pretty terrible. Jamming seems terrible as well, so we just elected on a fold. And he shows us ace-4 of diamonds, so nice hand. I love the 4-bets. Put me in a pretty weird spot where I guess I should have 5-bet in this specific instance, but not entirely sure. The 6th hand we go. We pick up a nice fun one in jack-8 of spades in the cutoff. Folds to me in the cutoff, certainly going to widen up the range a little bit, and we open it up to $20. Player on the button makes the call, and so does the big blind. So 3 ways to a flop. Flop is king 9-8, 2 spades, and a heart. So pretty good flop, all things considered, with bottom pair, the spade draw, and also a backdoor straight draw as well. So with that said, when the big blind checks to us, we decide to c-bet $25 with a whole lot of equity. Don't need to face too much aggression, as we do have a lot going for us. The button folds, and only the big blind decides on a call. So let's go to a turn, and the turn comes the jack of hearts. Brings in a backdoor flush draw, brings in a few straight draws. We improve the 2 pair. There's a lot happening now. Really weird spot because I feel like I want to get a lot of money in there with 2 pair and spades. But also it's like, how big can I bet and still be called with worse? Anyways, whatever. We decided to overbet this pot to $175. And he is not going to be folding here. He puts in 175 and we've got a big pot brewing. So let's see a river, and the river comes the 4 of spades. Perfect for us, as sometimes our 2 pair wasn't good, but we definitely think our flush is good now. Here, he actually puts in a bet and leads out for $200. He's got a pretty big stack, about $1,000 behind, and I'm tanking for a while because this honestly just feels like some sort of a blocker bet with a straight, but I don't know if I can raise for value here. I feel like sometimes I can raise really small to 2x or 2.5x here to get some information out of this, but does he ever have a queen or ace high flush sometimes where I'm just totally valuing myself? I don't know, and I'm on the fence, and I debate between calling and raising for a while. At the end of the day, I ended up putting in just a call because I just didn't want to raise and then get 3-bet and get blown off of our flush. So with that said, I call. He shows us 10-7 offsuit for a straight, and we're not happy about it. Feels like we could have gotten a little bit more value if we were to raise small. But it's nice to have the chips pushed in our direction, but yeah, we take it down. Let's go next hand, pocket 7s in the cutoff, playing 5-handed. We get the hijack player to open things up to $20, player to my right. But with 7s, certainly going to be playing it, so I call, and the big blind calls as well. 3 ways to a flop, which comes Jack, 7, deuce, 2 spades. Hijack puts in a c-bet of $25. Sitting with middle set here, I'm just going to flat this and not raise it up just yet. We decide to call, and the big blind folds. The turn comes a 9, so a non-spade card, great for us as we're certainly going to be putting in a raise now. Not too many 10-8s in his range, I don't think. But when he leads out for $55 again, certainly going to have to put in the raise and stick with the plan and go for value. He certainly can have some pocket 9s and pocket jacks in our range, but I think we get some info if he were to 3-bet us. So with that said, I raised to $165. And now, upon this raise, he tanks for a long time and honestly looks very uncomfortable. He counts out his chips and thinks about it for about a minute or two with this turn decision, ends up making the call. So when he flats this turn bets, I'm pretty confident that I'm ahead of 1 pair holdings. He certainly has a lot of the aces, kings, or queens in his range, so let's see a blank river and hope to blast it. The river comes the 4 of clubs. It's an absolute total brick. He checks with about $1,200 behind, and let's go for value. We raised on the turn, so let's try to polarize our range. We certainly can have a lot of missed combo draws, but in this instance, we size up to $450. With this bet, he immediately, once again, looks a little uncomfortable and counts out his chips once again. He tanks for a while. I'm not going to have you sweat out how long it actually took him to tank, but he ends up putting in the call. So show our hand, assuming that we're good here a lot of the time. But no, he shows us pocket 9s for a turned set over sets. Feels like we've benefited from a lot of set over sets previously. It's about time we ran into one against us. Next hand we go, picking up pocket kings under the gun, and there's a button straddle. The small blind player decides to limp. He's the passive player, and he's very infamous for playing 5 deuce. He's won a few pots playing it so far, so with knowing he has a pretty wide limping range, I size up to $50 here when he limps. Folds around, and only the small blind calls, so heads up in position against this player, which is going to be leading to a fun hand, hopefully. The flop comes 10, 8, 5, 2 hearts. He checks to us, and against this player, knowing he can call pretty wide on the flop here, we decided to bet the pot and bet $100. Sizing up pot size bets, I think we can just kind of get more money in here quicker. He thinks for a while and ends up putting in the call, but the way that he called seemed to signify a lot of weakness, so let's just see a turn. The turn comes another heart in the 3 of hearts. Once again, he checks, and I don't think he's going to be tanking too long with a heart draw and flush draw. So with that said, we size only to $150. He doesn't have too much behind, and we're just trying to commit his stack and get as much money here in the middle here. So he thinks about it and calls for $150. The river comes a deuce. This is the player who is very infamous for playing 5 deuce, and if he has 2 pairs, so be it, but once again, he checks, so I feel pretty good about my overpair and 1 pair hand. I throw out another bet of $150 again, because I don't think he even has a 10 in this spot. Sometimes he can just call down light with an 8 or a 5, but he does make the call for $150. We show our pocket kings, and we're going to scoop this one. All right, guys. Strap in your seatbelts. This one's going to be a ride. King Jack offsuit on the button, and action folds to me. Obviously, good candidate to raise, so we size to $20. And the small blind, who's a very solid player, puts in the 3-bet to $80. Folds to me, and I think folding here is certainly a little too nitty, although I do want to tighten up my range against this player to make our lives easy. But we make the call here for 60 more, and we're going to see a flop. The flop comes 6-6-4, 2 spades, and in this instance, he leads out for $80. From my past experience, I've seen him c-bet a lot of flops for value and bluffs with 1/3 or 1/4 sized bets. Facing a half pot sizing is a little interesting and potentially just seems weak to us. So with that said, obviously calling with king high is not great, and on this specific board, facing his 3-bet, this certainly should hit my range more than his. So I decided to raise it up to $250 as it does smash my range. And facing this bet, he does make the call, which is pretty darn interesting. I didn't want him to see a call here, just want to take it down on the flop, but let's see a turn. The turn comes the 7 of diamonds. This is a really great card once again for me and my range. At this point, playing heads up, we're just going to be playing range versus range. He checks on this turn card, and looking at his stack with only about $800-ish behind, I decided to size down here to a bet of $230, hoping to continue to tell my story of a very strong hand as this turn 7 just straight up destroys and smashes our range. Anyways, he makes the call though, so we're going to be in a world of trouble. I'm not really sure what I'm hoping to see or not see, but I think we're just going to rip it in on the river. The river comes a 3. It's another great card. The spade draw does miss. We're holding the king of spades, so I don't really know what the hell he can be holding, but if he does have an overpair, we can put that to the test. So when he checks to us, I can't win with king high. I rip it all in for about $600-ish effective, and he snap folds. Later, he tells us that he had jack 9 of spades, so really glad we missed the spades there and faded them. Yeah, so we're going to take this one down.
38.
Last hand to go over this video, we have 4-5 of hearts on the big blind, and there's a button straddle. Small blind folds, and we decide to open things up to $40 here, and the button's going to defend his straddle, so let's see a flop. Flop comes 6-7 deuce, 2 spades and a heart. Pretty good board for us with our holding here, open-ended with a backdoor heart draw. I decided to c-bet on the smaller side to $35, and surprisingly, haven't seen this from him too much. He raises it up to $130. Obviously, we are just never folding, but I'm a little suspect and curious about his raising range on the flop, since he just doesn't do this ever. Anyways, I call and hoping to see a good turn. The turn comes the 3 of diamonds. That's beautiful. Super nice to immediately get there on the turn, so there's no sweat. I check, hoping to check raise now, but he checks back, which is just unfortunate. We're off to a river, which comes the 9 of spades. Not great that the spade draw gets there, but I check, and this time he fires out a pretty large sizing to $225. I'm just going to have to snap call here. I don't think I can ever fold a straight, and if he has a flush, that's pretty frustrating. I call, he rolls over, king 4 of spades. Not great for us. I'm a little tilted, and this is where we end the session. Alrighty, gentlemen, we are out of Boston Billiard and driving back home. Today's session, not too shabby, I would say. We only played for 4.5 hours. This time it was pretty quick. I like to keep it quick, and we got some interesting hands. It was in and out. First time ever running into, not first time ever, but it's been a long time since I've ran set over set and not have it go my direction. So that was, ooh, it's dark. So that was a good change of pace. Not good for me, but it was a long time coming. I was kind of expecting that, so that was a big hit. I wish he would have 3-bet that turn, and then I could have navigated that a little bit easier and was really confident in folding if you 3-bet me. But anyways, we made money today. I forgot to go over the number. We were in for $1,000. We were out for $2,530, so good $1,500 profit there. We had a great start, first hand in, doubling up. Can't say it was smooth from there, but it was good enough. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot for tuning in to the very end. Hope you guys are all doing fantastic, and let's just try to run good the rest of this 2020 year. It's like the beginning of December. I know you're watching this in the beginning of January. We got a month left to 2020. Let's try to close it out well. All right, I'll see you guys.